It's going to be aggressive,
Yeah.
uncomfortable, and maybe sore. But it's not going to, you're not going to be like, I can no longer chew.
Hey guys, Jim here. Welcome back once again. Now, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I don't really get a chance to review a lot of button lock knives. Most of the button locks that I've reviewed are custom-made Brian tie knives from my personal collection. However, a couple of weeks ago, I was able to bring out to you a really wonderful budget button lock that I was actually pretty damn impressed with, especially for as low of a price as it was. And that was the Remet WD-107. But now, I've got something else in my hands that might remind you a lot of that knife. However, there are some very distinct differences that really make this feel like a true cut above. This is a cool knife. It's a good budget knife. This is something quite a bit more special. And this is the Bastards Knives Utopia out of Spain. Now that's something I don't think I've ever said on my channel before. This knife coming from Spain. I can't recall any knives that I've ever reviewed that had come from designed in or made in Spain. This, I do believe, is the first. And one of the things that really set this apart for me, as soon as I opened it up, was the heft in the hand. The Remet is very, very lightweight. And this I find to be a lot more, I don't want to say pleasurable, but I really do enjoy handling this knife more than I do the Remet. It just feels more substantial. It feels like maybe it's higher quality just in the way that it feels in the hand, just with the balance that it has and the weight of that blade when you go to close it. And it's rather unique action. Now, its action is unique because its locking mechanism is unique. Now, I keep calling it a button lock because, well, you do have a button to disengage the lock up here in the bolster, but it's not a button lock in the traditional sense, and I'm going to explain that when we get to the tabletop review. The other thing that I really like is the fully mirror polished stone wash blade. That's another first for my channel. This is the very first mirror polished stone wash blade that I've had a chance to review on my channel, and I gotta tell you, it is so slick and it is so cool. And a lot of the reasons people tend to shy away from mirror polished blades are they tend to show scratches and daily wear from cutting. Well, when it's a stone wash finish underneath that mirror, that helps to kind of hide the daily wear marks that you may add on to it, and it can still look like a pretty new knife for a long period of time. You get that great additional corrosion resistance of having a fully mirror polished blade. No matter what steel you're dealing with, if it's fully mirror polished, it's going to have better corrosion resistance than if it were satin finished or standard stone washed, or especially if it were bead blasted. This thing is something wild and something cool, and I can't wait to show it to you. All right, let's just start right here. How friggin' ballsy is that to name your company Bastards Knives? Very cool move. Very creative. And then the middle finger as their logo. And that leads me right into one of the special things about this knife, and that is the polished, stone-washed finish of this blade. Nicely executed. It's not a perfect mirror. It's got a little bit of waviness to it. but still very, very cool, very shiny, and having the stone wash finish, as I mentioned in the intro, will also make it more of a guilt-free user. If you get a few marks or scratches on it, chances are they're just going to blend in with the little flecks from the tumbling that it's already got. Now, for those that want to make that direct comparison to the Remet that I had just reviewed recently, there are significant differences in the shape of the handle. This is much more ergonomic, really fits the hand very, very, very well. This is very neutral on the Remet, very straight. Nothing wrong with that at all, not dogging it at all. I just prefer how this particular knife fits my hand. Your hand may be a little bit different, bigger or smaller, and it may work for you, and it may not. I don't know. Another nice little addition is the fact that they are individually numbered, so you do have a true numbered limited edition. This one happens to be number 93 out of only 200 being made. And when I spoke to the gentleman over at Bastard's Knives, he says typically on their fixed blade models, they make about 100 knives per run, and on the folders, it's about 200 knives per run. And that sounds about right, because folders are generally going to be more popular than fixed blades are going to be. So, when was the last time you heard of a knife brand being offered out of Spain? And I'm sure there are a few. I've just never had a chance to review any. This is a rather unique design and a rather unique feel. Now, as I mentioned also in the intro, the feeling of substance to this knife is so much greater than that of the Remet. It's funny because when I reviewed the Remet, people wanted to compare this against a bunch of other button lock knives that are titanium bolstered with carbon fiber. And so I know the comparison's already going to be made automatically. It's the only reason I'm bringing it out here. This is far more refined in the way that it feels, the way all of the interior edges are done, even the exterior edges of the frame, far more refined. Obviously much more substantial, much thicker titanium, thicker blade stock. Even the thumb studs are machined to what feels like a more refined level of quality. I love the design on the Remet. These are very basic looking, but they feel really, really good. So there's kind of your side-by-side. I do really still like how Remet shaped their bolster and the accentuation that they've done in it. I think it's very, very cool. And this is also this is also a standard button lock. When I say that this is not a standard button lock, what do I mean? Well, you're just going to have to hang around for a while, because I have a rhythm that I have to go in here. We got to do the TLDW, then we got to do the specs, and then we get into my personal thoughts, where I start talking a little bit more in detail about how I feel about the knife, any background information on the model, on the maker, things like that. So please be patient. Okay, TLDW, starting off with the pros. One pro, and I've said this about countless knives lately, I really, really love the flat face pivot. I'm a big, big fan of that. That's why I've incorporated that into a lot of my own designs. I really like the look, the simplicity, and the feel of a flat pivot. I think it's very, very cool. They did a nice integration here with the materials from the carbon fiber to the titanium. You cannot feel the transition in any way. So you can Helen Keller this all day. Close your eyes and just feel with your finger, and you have no idea till you get to the pivot, which is only very slightly proud of the bolster. You have no idea there's a transition of materials here on any surface. From the edges to the top side, the back side, you have no clue. It's beautifully done. Another pro for me is going to be, again, the mirrored stonewash. I think it's a really cool finish and something that we don't see very often. Dig their logo. dig the name. I know there's going to be a lot of people that won't like having what they consider to be a curse word on the spine of their knife. That's fine. I get that. Pocket clip works well. It is a bit over-designed, to be honest with you. You don't need this much of a bowl, but it does work well. So how can you complain? Even if the lip of the pocket on your jeans is twice as thick as normal, you've got enough of a duckbill here to fit, to just drop right over it and pop it right in place. It's a little bit more deep carry than I would prefer, so this is about what is sticking out of the pocket. It's only that much. I want more to grab onto personally. Some people agree with me, some people disagree. That's fine, that's my personal thing. I would prefer that it wasn't as deep carry. Now, other pros. Shape of the button, I like that. And the fact that the button isn't sitting out, 1/16 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch out of the frame. It's fairly low profile, but it's still easy to access. So if you're the kind that likes a button lock and you like to release it by the button, as well as unlock it by the button, it's not going to be obtrusive in any way, but it's still going to be very easy to access. I would have loved to have seen a little bit of jimping or checkering done on the surface of it, just so that you had a little bit more of a slip-free grip. But that's a minor little niggle. That's not a major thing whatsoever. And another thing is they did a really nice job on the overall finishing. The finishing of the carbon fiber is nice and clean. I have yet to find any voids anywhere in the carbon fiber. I'm sure now that I'm magnifying it, I'll find one. But no, wow. No voids. Wait, there's a little bit of a pinprick right there. But otherwise finished very, very well. The mating of all the parts, perfect. I mean, they just did a really, really great job. Now, are there any cons? I think this might come out to be a little bit heavy for some people. There are a lot of people that have like a 4-ounce weight limit if it's going to be a true EDC. The Remet will certainly fit within that. This will not. Now, I don't find it to be burdensome in any way. I don't find it to be too heavy in any way. I like the extra little bit of heft to it. It gives you that degree of perceived quality. You're like, wow, it feels so good. It feels so hefty. It feels like I could chop through a cinder block. It really feels high quality. It doesn't actually indicate a quality difference, but there's that perception. You believe it's higher quality just in the way that it feels in the hand. So there's that. I think if there was another con, I would have rather have seen a good degree of jimping, starting probably right about where the A is to the E. I would have liked to have seen jimping on the spine, not just the name of the brand. The name of the brand could really have gone anywhere. But I do like that they kind of hid it away there. I think it's a classy way of doing it. But I really would have preferred to see a little bit of jimping there. Let's get into the specs, and then we're going to talk about why this button lock is unlike other traditional button locks. First off, we're going to use the new pattern since you guys seem to enjoy that, where I'll just list the specs here and leave it on the screen for a few seconds. You can pause it to slowly read them instead of me narrating each and every line, which can suck up more time in the overall review length. I think at 8.07 inches, it's not oversized in any way. The blade length of 3.5 inches, 3.52 inches, I think for most people is going to be within their happy place, within their sweet spot. It's a good size overall, and it fits the hand very, very well. Now, let's talk about that button lock. Now, as they have described it to me, this is not your standard button lock. And I don't know if I can really show you without taking the knives apart, if you can really see the significant differences here. You're not really going to. So, on a standard button lock, this plunger right here is what's actually locking your knife. You're pushing it in, and you're just moving that stepped area away from the tang of the blade and allowing it to close. Now this, in essence, is doing pretty much the same thing. However, take a nice good look inside, and you'll see It's actually a modified liner lock. The liner lock has been reversed. Instead of being down low in the frame, it's high up in the frame. And what this button is doing is the button is pushing against the liner lock and releasing. And that's what's providing the tension to the button, is that liner lock. Now, the liner lock system based in this is really more for the button tension than anything else. So where everybody else has a spring in here that you're compressing when you push that button, and you'll get people complaining that the springs are either too weak or they're too strong, or they can wear out over time and have to be replaced. This will not wear out over time and need to be replaced, because all it's doing is it's getting its pressure from the liner, pure and simple. And there's not enough movement in that liner for it to really have any issues wearing out. Even the way it sounds, listen to it as it hits its blade stops. Now listen to the remet. This sounds a little bit, I don't want to say hollower, but a little bit tinnier and a little bit thinner and a little bit lighter, because it is. It's like slamming the door on a Honda and slamming the door on a Mercedes. There is a distinctly different sound to that Mercedes or to that Bentley or to that Rolls Royce when that door closes. And for a lot of people, that's going to be an indication of the refinement that's in that particular car. So the Utopia was designed by Wayward Design to be a non-traditional button lock. As I explained, it has no spring. It's basically a hidden liner lock, with the liner lock applying pressure to the button, and the button moves the liner to disengage the lock. I have no experience whatsoever with Wayward Design, but they're the ones that collaborated with Bastards Knives, plural, to make this Utopia model. Bastards was founded in Spain only in 2022. Now, as I understand it, the individuals that formed the company have had years of experience in the knife industry, but collectively under this umbrella, it's only been since 2022. These are 325 bones, $325. Now, it only puts it about $150 more, I think, than the remet. I'm having a hard time remembering how much the remet was. I want to say it was about $130, so it might be $200 more. Think about this. If you had this knife and you sent it off to have the blade mirror stonewashed, you'd probably pay close to the price difference just in that finish. That's not accounting for the thicker, more substantial materials. That's not the better, the higher end fit and finish on those materials that this has over the remet. So I can look at the price difference and say that works for me, because I feel that the costs are justified. Now, Bastards Knives have been making their own knives and beginning collaboration builds with several knife makers, including Ken Steigerwald and more. Imagine that. Imagine doing such a good job that a living legend making some of the most expensive art knives in the world would be interested in collaborating with you. That is really, really impressive. They're also distributors for Fat Carbon, and there was a Damascus company they distribute for as well. I forget the name, I apologize. They're soon going to be expanding manufacturing operations in France, Germany, further out in Spain, and in the United States. Now, that was something I did not expect to hear, especially the United States part. So you've got a Spanish company that's collaborating with a number of different talented knife makers and designers, putting out what I feel from this example is a high quality product, not pricing them up in the stratosphere. This could very easily be a 400 plus knife, easily, depending on who made it. And to see this out here at $325, I think I can justify that price difference between the two. And that was the most important reason for me to bring this out. I really don't want to do direct comparisons ever on any two knives, but they're so similar in their visual aesthetic that I knew that I'd be getting a lot of comments down in the comments section below, where people would say, yeah, but that Remet that you reviewed 2 weeks ago is so much cheaper and it looks so similar and I don't see the real difference. Why would I spend the extra, I'm just going off the top of my head, $150 or so? I see it when I pick the knife up. I see it in the finish work. I see it in the fitment. By the way, another thing I did not mention is the fact that this pocket clip is reversible, and you've got the filler tab with the Bastards Knives logo on this side. So you would just simply remove that, remove the clip, swap their places, put the filler tab over here, put the clip over here, and now you have a lefty-friendly knife. Let's see how that operates lefty. I am not a lefty, so it's probably not going to be super easy for me to do. So yeah, all I'm going to do is give it a little pinch on the button, and boom. Or I can just pinch the button and deploy it that way. Can it be finger flicked? Let's see. It probably could if I was a better reverse flicker. But there is definitely more pressure on this lock than there is on the Remet. And you'll feel it. You'll feel this gliding smoothness. That's the other thing that I can't relay to you on camera, is the feeling here. This actually feels a teeny tiny little bit gritty as that lock is engaging the entire length of the tang. This is glass smooth. No interruptions, no chattering, no jitteriness. It is wonderfully smooth. Now, I wish it was a little bit snappier. I would love to have more of like that rocket-like action coming out. But honestly, if you want it to be super fast, just hold down the lock and wrist flick it a little bit. A lot of people with button locks like to do that anyway. But you'll see it doesn't always go to full lock open. But it's smooth in the way like a Rockstead is smooth. And as a Rockstead breaks in, they can be flicked and flipped a little bit more easily. But it's that wonderful glass-like smoothness. And again, that adds to that refined feeling that's such a big deal with this knife. So I'm excited to come out here with a brand that I'm pretty certain that most of you have not heard of yet. This might be a completely new experience. And if you happen to get one for yourself, I think that you're going to be very pleasantly surprised. You're going to go, wow, this has a whole other section in my collection. It doesn't fall in line with any other titanium knives that I have. Certainly not any other button locks. It's going to have a gliding feeling to the action. The mirrored stonewash is going to make it special. There are so many little tiny nuances to this knife that are easy to fall in love with. I didn't even mention how cool the grind is. So you've got basically a spear point here, and I like the aggressive swedge that takes up 50% of the height of the blade. I think that's very, very well done. And their plunges are done well. They give you a little bit of room, not a lot, but a little bit of room for future sharpening before you have to worry about it creating a smiley or a notch. So all in all, I think it was well executed, obviously beautifully designed. The feeling in the hand, the ergonomics work well for my size hand, so I absolutely love that. It has like a natural pointability to it. So there's that. If you're looking for something unique, different, not too crazy expensive, and has a very high-end refined feeling, almost a custom knife feel to it, I think this is going to be the button lock for you.